very good morning wherever you are watching us from. We are right on time for Kirk in the morning every Friday, as we always do. Take a look at what has been happening all through the week on matters to do with the state of the nation. 3rd of March 2023. Welcome aboard to this particular broadcast wherever you are tuning in from. We'll be streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at Kirk TV Kenya for you to get in touch with us for this particular broadcast. Of course, we'll begin by talking about matters to do with the state of the nation. The LGBTQ row has been going on, the president coming out clearly yesterday and condemning the Supreme Court ruling allowing registration of association of the LGBTQ community. Of course, what does that mean for the country? Of course, Azimio la Umoja as well speaking and weighing in on the matter as the pressure mounts from religious organization and from clerics to ensure that the country does not allow any form of acceptance to the LGBTQ. What does that mean? The law versus the human rights versus the law. We'll be talking that later on with my guest here in studio, as well as taking a look at what has been happening in regards to the state of the country's security. The CS Interior, of course, giving a statement yesterday in regards to the ongoing operation that involved the Kenya Defence Forces and the National Police Service in the North Rift region. All that is packed in this particular broadcast as we talk about matters to do with the state of the nation. How has the week been like for the country? That one is the conversation we'll be having this morning. Then later on in the program, we'll also be talking matters to do with entertainment and on your talent. We'll be having our guest artist in studio who will be up next immediately after our conversation this morning on matters to do with the state of the nation. So wherever you are watching us from, welcome aboard and feel to be part of this conversation, even as we seek to address issues that have been affecting the Kenyan people. My name is Chris Sambon. This is Kirk in the morning, and as we always do, first we take a look at what is happening on the roads, and then we get back to our broadcast. All right, on this segment now we take a look at what is happening on the roads this morning. Of course, it's the 3rd day of March 2023, a Friday, and now it's about 8 minutes past 8 a.m. in the morning. So what does the roads look like this morning? Let's begin with one of the major roads linking to the Central Business District, and that is the Thika Super Highway. Thika Super Highway doesn't look so much good as usual, a culprit of traffic. Doesn't look so much good. There is a lot of traffic, especially just immediately past Muthaiga. You can see there is a lot of traffic, as well as right from Survey all the way to Muthaiga, moving in to Pangan and getting into the Central Business District. That is matters to do with the Thika Super Highway. And just taking a look at yet another major road that links into the Central Business District is the Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road doesn't look so much bad this morning, of course, despite the little bit of traffic snarl-ups at different points. The Mombasa Road looks so good this morning. Nyayo, around Nyayo is where you get a little bit of a traffic, as well as the Nairobi Expressway, which is on top of Mombasa Road, looks so much good this morning. Let's take a look at what Ngong Road looks like. Doesn't look so much bad this morning. Ngong Road looking so much good despite the different snarl-ups at different traffic control junctions. And as you descend down to the Central Business District, then you realize that around community area there is a little bit of a traffic there, but still moving swiftly as you descend down, getting to the Central Business District. And that is Ngong Road, how Ngong Road looks like this morning. And just taking a look at yet another road that links into the Central Business District. We look at we'll be looking at Pangani Road, which doesn't look so much bad as you descend and get into the Central Business District, which is one of the major roads as well linking into the Central Business District. We take a look at Langata Road. Right from Langata police station, a little bit of a traffic right there because of the junction of the traffic control at that particular junction at Langata police station. But as you descend past Carnival all the way to Wilson Airport and to Nyayo National Stadium, there is no traffic. You only encounter traffic right about now when you get to the Nyayo National Stadium. Of course, that particular roundabout, which is under traffic control, there is a little bit of traffic there as you're moving. So if you can be able to use an alternative means, then it will be of your great importance this morning. Let's take a look at the last road, which links into the central business district. Jogoo Road, which always is a culprit of traffic, but doesn't look so much bad, especially all the way from Donholm through Makadara, right from Makadara, between Makadara and Nairobi City Stadium, doesn't look so much good. A little bit of a traffic snarl up, but exactly at Makadara, quite some few meters, map tells me that there is a little bit of a heavy traffic. But once you're out of that particular area in Makadara, then all the way to Nairobi City Stadium upwards to the central business district, then there is no traffic, but a little bit of traffic snarl up. That is matters to do with Jogoo Road. So an outlook of how the roads look this morning. Of course, it is 11 minutes past 8 in the morning, so you expect a lot of movement. So the roads are quite busy despite the different snarlers, but only Mombasa Road, which looks a little bit better this morning and this particular hour. Of course, we'll be taking a look later on to see how the roads look like as we continue this particular broadcast. Of course, to inform you of what is expected in the roads and what the roads look like even as we continue with this particular broadcast. For the next 2 hours, we'll be right here to give you the program that you need. So that is what is happening on the roads. Up next is the newspaper review. What is in the newspapers this morning? All right, and now as we get into the newspaper review, we'll be taking a look at what is being written on the Standard newspaper and the Daily Nation as well. And there is so much that has been written, so we'll take a look at what is in the newspapers this morning. All right, let's begin with the Standard newspaper this morning. And on top of the Standard newspaper has a top picture of President William Ruto and an insert picture of President William Ruto. And at the bottom, of course, another insert of Right Honorable Opposition Leader Raila Odinga. And the top story of the Standard newspaper talks about not in Kenya, Ruto to same-sex unions. Leaders across the political divide unite in condemning the recent Supreme Court decision to allow members of the LGBTQI community form associations, saying it is a window to legalizing same-sex engagements that are against the Kenyan culture. That is a story, the top story by the Standard newspaper, which is talking about the ongoing row between the Supreme Court and the Kenyan leaders in regards to the decision by the Supreme Court to allow registration and the LGBTQ community to form association. That is the story by the Standard newspaper on top of its page. And the bottom of the Standard newspaper has the picture of Right Honorable Raila Odinga when he met the Muslim imams at the Jaramogi Odinga Foundation yesterday, and tells the Muslim clerics took that opportunity to talk about the ongoing religious debate in the country, and saying that don't discriminate as Muslim clerics tell William Ruto. And that is what the Standard newspaper talks about on its top page. Right at the bottom of the side of the top page talks about governor fails to explain how he spent 3 billion shillings. That story is on in-depth on page 12 of the Standard newspaper. Of course, quite a number of stories being written by the Standard newspaper, so you can get a copy and get to see what is inside. Right from page 1, a little bit of big stories which have been written by the Standard newspaper. And on page 8 talks about petitioners seek over 300 billion Kenyan shillings as M-Pesa cash from Vodafone. That is a story you need to get a glimpse of and get to understand what exactly has been written on page 8 of the Standard newspaper in regards to that particular story. And you take a look at what the Daily Nation looks like this morning. On top picture, insert is on the bigger story there. Ruto MPs set for power price war. House committee yesterday threw out Kenya power bosses, accusing them of lacking tangible measures to reduce electricity costs, which the lawmakers blamed on exorbitant deals with independent power producers run by cartels shielded by the utility firm. This even as the cabinet this week lifted the Uhuru-era ban on procurement of new IPPs. And that is a story there written by the Daily Nation. Pages 6 and 7 is an insight there when the Director General of the Kenya Power and Lightning Company was thrown out of the House Committee yesterday over a probe that has been ongoing on the expenditure, awarding of tenders and contracts at the Kenya Power and Lightning Company that has spiked the price, or rather the price of power in the country, or rather the cost of power in the country. That is the story by the Daily Nation. And also an insight there talks about an interesting story there of service to poor nurse accolades, award-winning nurse Rahamo Bagaro during an interview. She has been helping the poor people, and now she's been recognized as the best nurse in the Humanitarian and Event Hero Awards. That is a story by the Daily Nation, which talks an in-depth of what exactly is expected of what is expected of the Kenyan people. Ruto, Raila condemns Supreme Court over its LGBTQ judgment. That is the story on page 4, written by the Daily Nation, and in-depth of that particular story. As well as page 5, quite an interesting story there, where Ruto clips Mutua wings in foreign policy shift. In the new changes, where the foreign embassies will not be allowed, will not necessarily have to go through the Kenyan foreign ministry for them to conduct and or rather transact government functions. Therefore, they will be just contacting the ministries directly in regards to the change in policy, which has been interpreted by experts as a move to clip powers of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs by President William Ruto. Because that big change coming in without critic. Of course, what it means for the Kenyan people. Small traders to gain in Hustler Fund Phase 2. That is the recently launched Phase 2 of the Hustler Fund that will be coming in 10,000 and 200,000 Kenyan shillings. That is what they will be getting in the new phase of the Hustler Fund. And of course, that is a story there by the Daily Nation. Page 7 of the Daily Nation talks about a bigger story there of President William Ruto when he talked about be ready for 500 Kenyan shillings gas cylinders from June. That is what President said in his address yesterday. And of course, that particular statement causing an uproar among Kenyans whether it will be actualized as it has been the norm. But what Kenyans say is wait and see whether the government will fulfill that particular promise. And that is what is in the newspapers this morning. You can be able to grab your copy and then be able, to get a glimpse of the bigger stories that have been written. They are quite informative and quite a number of stories that concern the state of the nation. Of course, that is our conversation this morning. We'll be talking about the state of the nation, and my guest will be in studio in a short while. Ngugi Ndegwa is the chairman of NAC Kenya Youth League and also a political analyst, and Ashia Biko is a constitutional lawyer and also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, will be in studio in a short while to talk about matters to do with the constitution of the IBC panel. I will also be talking about the state of security, the ongoing operation that has caused uproar, and the CS summoned by different parliament committees to explain the ongoing operation and the format that the government is using. Of course, the LGBTQ debate that has caused an uproar in the country, the top leaders of the country coming out strongly to condemn the Supreme Court for allowing registration of associations from the LGBTQ community. President William Ruto being categorical that he will not allow that particular process to be undertaken in this country, despite acknowledging that he respects the decision of the Supreme Court. So that is something that we wait to see what will unfold in the next few days. Of course, we understand the Attorney General is already appealing that particular story, that particular issue regarding the LGBTQ ruling, but we'll be talking that in a short while, so don't go far away. We are taking a very short commercial break. When we return back, it's our conversation on the state of the nation. So stay tuned wherever you are watching us from. Remember, we are streaming live on Facebook at Kirk TV Kenya and YouTube at Kirk TV Kenya. You can be part of this particular broadcast by sending in your feedback and also being part of this conversation. Weigh in on matters that we'll be discussing in a short while. We'll be right back. We're taking a very short commercial break, but don't go far away.
The Department of PCA Children Ministry Head Office has good news for you. Are you looking for a profession that does not disappoint? The place to be is at PCEA Shalom ECDE College, offering a course for diploma in ECDE. Requirements are KCSE mean grade of C and above. You can also do upgrading from an ECDE certificate to a diploma, and the requirements are an ECDE certificate. Intake is currently ongoing, offering flexible modes of learning on e-learning or full-time. Enroll now and register for the 2023 class on our main campus at Zambezi Kikuyu along Nairobi Naivasha Road Lake Training Center. You can also apply online via the PCEA Shalom ECDE online registration form. Shalom Academy and Junior Secondary School intake is ongoing. We have a one-year offer on zero tuition fee to all new grade 7 students. For more information, call the office on 0111 758 285 or 0113 107 958. You can get in touch with the director, Reverend Peters, on 0725 236 260. Send us an email, pcashalomdekte@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram too at pcashalomdekte. Hostels and meals are available for the students in the same venue at a competitive price. You're welcome for a bright future career.
And that's what Zacchaeus was. He seemed not to care about anybody until Jesus came that way. And then his true desires showed up. And he sought to see who Jesus was. Everything we say is wrong. Lord, life is so hard. Things are so difficult. I don't think I can make it. I don't think there's hope for me. I don't think there's any way out. I don't think this thing will solve. There are people who can seem very rough on the outside, but deep inside them, they have a deep hunger for God. There is nothing above him. There is no other recourse. And because there is nothing about him, nobody can counter-command his command. So this unseen God, you can have all kinds of imagination of him. But this unseen God decided, I want to show myself, so that when you say he's good, you would know what it means. You say he's kind, he's loving, he's merciful. You can have a real human picture of him.
Keep it Kirk now and going forward. We have a lot of family programs, and this being a Christian commercial station, we will partner with you as institutions, as individuals, so that we are able to reach out to the entire world. One person said that my parish is the entire world, and I believe that Kirk TV is going globally, and therefore bring your business. We are going to advertise it and also partner with you.
To partner with us, send your financial support to pay bill number 401-9613, account partner. Pay bill number 401-9613, account partner.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647. Losing a beloved one can be one of the hardest life experiences. Death brings a total change in many setups, the family taking a huge position. Death also provides an opportunity to celebrate the departed and their achievements on earth. Kirk TV provides for you an opportunity to announce death and funeral at affordable fee. For more information, write to us via announcements@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647.
We start a program that helps us to go on a journey to get to understand the ministers who are now retired, who spent most of their life in the pulpit and now are in the pew listening to others continue with the work of ministry.
I have retired from now employment, the formal employment, but I have not expired.
We get onto a journey to understand their experiences and the things that they have gone through, the journey of their lives that can be helpful to those of us that are still in active ministry. And we can tap from their wealth of experience so that we can know how to continue with the work of ministry.
Even the ministers we have today, I would like them to know there's today and tomorrow.
Greetings to all of you who watch Kirk TV programs. I said you Christians love and peace from all the Kirk family and the entire ministry. Since God gave us this Kirk TV, which is a very competent means of reaching people in and outside Kenya, Kirk TV is undoubtedly giving good and effective services to many people wherever our signal reaches. It is evident that God is at work through Kirk TV. We therefore need your loving support through your continuous prayers. We also appeal passionately for your generous financial support to help us be on air as the Lord will require us to do and to be. Please plan to give regularly. Please give occasionally, or you can begin to give a one-time gift. The scripture is right that you will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion, and your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. Please respond to this genuine, urgent appeal. Kindly be a Kirk TV partner. May God bless you abundantly as we join hands to do this good work.
To partner with us, send your financial support to pay bill number 401-9613, account partner. Pay bill number 401-9613, account partner.
It is said by the World Health Organization that it is the leading cause of premature deaths, not just here in Kenya, but worldwide.
It is not a good thing because elevated blood pressure is known to damage the organs, principally the eyes, the heart, the kidneys, the brain, and the blood vessels and nerves throughout the body. So I'm checking the blood pressure now, looking for the systolic blood pressure. If you don't control your blood pressure, if you don't control your sugar, you could end up in a place where you can't perform sexually and you cannot even bear children.
Tune in to Health Nuggets this Monday at 7:30 p.m. as we look at high blood pressure only on Kirk TV.
The Department of PCEA Children Ministry Head Office has good news for you. Are you looking for a profession that does not disappoint? The place to be is at PCEA Shalom ECDE College, offering a course for diploma in ECDE. Requirements are KCSE mean grade of C and above. You can also do upgrading from an ECDE certificate to a diploma, and the requirements are an ECDE certificate. Intake is currently ongoing, offering flexible modes of learning on e-learning or full-time. Enroll now and register for the 2023 class on our main campus at Zambezi Kikuyu along Nairobi Naivasha Road Lay Training Center. You can also apply online via the PCEA Shalom ECDE online registration form. Shalom Academy and Junior Secondary School intake is ongoing. We have a one-year offer on zero tuition fee to all new grade 7 students. For more information, call the office on 0111 758 285 or 0113 107 958. You can get in touch with the director, Reverend Peters, on 0725 236 260. Send us an email, pcashalomdekte@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram too at pcashalomdekte. Hostels and meals are available for the students in the same venue at a competitive price. You're welcome for a bright future career.
And that's what Zacchaeus was. He seemed not to care about anybody until Jesus came that way. And then his true desires showed up. And he sought to see who Jesus was. Everything we say is wrong. Lord, life is so hard. Things are so difficult. I don't think I can make it. I don't think there's hope for me. I don't think there's any way out. I don't think this thing will solve. There are people who can seem very rough on the outside, but deep inside them, they have a deep hunger for God. There is nothing above him. There is no other recourse. And because there is nothing about him, nobody can counter-command his command. So this unseen God, you can have all kinds of imagination of him. But this unseen God decided, I want to show myself, so that when you say he's good, you would know what it means. You say he's kind, he's loving, he's merciful. You can have a real human picture of him.
Keep it Kirk now and going forward. We have a lot of family programs, and this being a Christian commercial station, we will partner with you as institutions, as individuals, so that we are able to reach out to the entire world. One person said that my parish is the entire world, and I believe that Kirk TV is going globally, and therefore bring your business. We are going to advertise it and also partner with you.
To partner with us, send your financial support to pay bill number 401-9613, account partner. Pay bill number 401-9613, account partner.
right, welcome back to Kirk in the Morning. In case you're joining us, remember we are streaming live on Facebook at Kirk TV Kenya, and of course it's a Friday, the 3rd March of 2023. Of course, this is a moment that we'll be talking about the state of the nation. How has the week been like for the country? How has the week been like for Kenyans? Matters to do with the state of the Kenyan security, matters to do with the LGBTQ row, the president coming out yesterday to be categorical about his position on the ongoing row of a Supreme Court ruling allowing registration of associations from the LGBTQ community. What does that mean for the Kenyan people? We'll be talking that as we get on with this particular conversation. And of course, the president announced yesterday that the price of gas cylinders will be descending down to at least 500 shillings or even 300 shillings. What does that mean for the Kenyan people? Is it a sign of bettering the country's economy? Of course, different conversations about that particular statement by the president. Kenyans questioning on whether the government will actualize that particular promise is a matter of wait and see. But on this particular broadcast, we'll be taking a look at what exactly does that mean for the Kenyan people. And of course, it has been a long week talking about matters to do with the law versus the human rights. The Supreme Court coming out to say that indeed this is what we believe the law says, but we also believe that the law has a regard for human rights. But the Kenyan leaders come out strongly to say, despite the Supreme Court having a fair share of what the law says, we also know what is good for the Kenyan people and what is good for our culture. Welcome aboard to this particular conversation, and my guest is already in studio. Ngugi Ndegwa is a political analyst and also youth chairman of the NARC Kenya Party. Yes. Karibu sana kwenye studio.
Asante sana.
And good to see you this morning.
Good to see you too. I'm glad that I have the opportunity to come back and maybe talk about further the discussion on things that are happening in the country.
All right, and yes. Our other guest, Biko Ashoya, who is a constitutional lawyer and of course an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, will be joining us shortly for us to have this particular conversation. But just to begin with you, Mr. Ndegwa, just a glimpse of what the week has been. What do you make of the happening of this week, especially when you talk about matters to do with what has been the talk of the country, the LGBTQ row, and I think that is the biggest conversation that has been around. What do you make of the week has been like?
My take on what has been part of a major part of the discussion in this week or during this week is that we are not at a good place as a country and as a society. And when I say a society, I mean the African society, to discuss some issues. And when I say we are not at a good place, I mean that there are better issues that we could first address. And in the order of priority of the things that maybe we need to address as a nation and as a people, I don't think the issue of what has been discussed on homosexuality, we are at a good place to talk about it right now. So maybe in the future, there might be discussions, and definitely there will be discussions on it. But I don't think in the foreseeable future, and we even don't need to talk about these issues. Yes.
And looking at that particular, you're talking about we're not right for this conversation. Yes. It's a conversation that goes down for some time, then all of a sudden it erupts. Yes. And then once it erupts, it meets the same resistance, goes down again. Do you think it's something that they, that need to be addressed once and for all, for us to, for the government to state its position? Of course, we know there's the law, yes, and there's the constitution that has been talking about what we need to know when it comes to that particular issue. But do we need to resolve it and put a position once and for all?
On one hand, there is what the law says, and on the other there is maybe the threshold of morality, which does not exist. Because you cannot say, for one, that there is this measure of morality, or you need to get here so that we are able to say that this is moral. But now there is the question of a discussion that is global, and which some people may want us to believe is conventional, but it is not. And when I say that, I mean that for a long time, and for the longest time, and that is the reason that we find ourselves having this discussion, then it goes down, then comes back again, because there is a group of people in the world that thinks that what they believe is what everyone else should believe, and that their culture should be the culture of others. And when I say that, I mean for the longest time the Western world has tried maybe to kind of shape the discussion even in Africa and Asia, which should not be the case, because what might be good to some people is not good to others. And what is good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. So I believe one of the things that as a people and as a nation, and largely as Africa, we should do is set our priorities right. That is one, so that we are able to tell the Western world that it is okay that the UN, because that is one of the things that has been quoted majorly, the UN has recognized maybe homosexuality or gay rights as human rights. But the UN, who is the UN? The UN doesn't necessarily mean that it is the Western world, because even the African nations are part of the UN. So it should be a conversation that recognizes that it is good that the Western world believes that this is good, but that might be part of their culture. But for others, it might not be. So, and I think that is part of the reason why even the framers, some may disagree, but the framers of the Constitution of Kenya, and even the Constitution itself as is right now, does not really recognize the issue of sex orientation. There might be people who talk about Article 27, and majorly maybe that is why what happened in the Supreme Court recently happened, that people there should be non-discrimination in terms of sex, that you should not be discriminated for being a woman or for being a man, and recently for being transgender. But that does not touch on sexual orientation. And that is why I'm saying majorly, because even the framers of the Constitution did not envision such a moment. It is an issue we should not even discuss. We should first of all discuss issues that help Africa and the Kenyan people, issues of development, issues of security, and then maybe someday in the future that might be talked about. But I don't think, I even don't think it is correct.
It's going to happen.
Yes.
I think on that particular note, we have what President William Ruto said yesterday. I don't know if you have that clip we can play. What President William Ruto said in regards to his position and the country's position on LGBTQ.
Sisi kama wamama tunataka nafasi yetu.
Akina Alice Ng'ang'a waliingia, kina Alice Wahome ambaye ni waziri aliingia, inaanza kukosa kuita women representative wa Nairobi.
It needs to make a start in ICT, and they've asked the beneficiaries.
Hiyo ni kinyume na vile sisi tunaamini. Sisi tunasema kiongozi wa nchi hii ni mcha Mungu. He is a man of faith. He'll do what needs to be done. In any case, we have our traditions and customs, and what they are suggesting is repugnant to morality and justice and our way of life.
Mimi nimesikia vile mumeongea hapa, na nyinyi mnanielewa sawa sawa, ya kwamba mimi ni mtu ambaye ninamcha Mungu. Yale mambo ambayo yamefanyika kule kotini, hata kama tunaheshimu kotini, lakini desturi, mila, Ukristo wetu, Uislamu wetu hauwezi kuturuhusu mke aoe mke mwenzake. ama mwanaume aoe mwanaume mwenzake. Na mimi nataka niwaeleze, tunaelewana? Mimi nataka niwaeleze ya kwamba katika taifa letu la Kenya tuko na mila, tuko na desturi, tunaheshimu katiba yetu, tunaheshimu madini zetu zote. Hatuwezi kwenda barabara ati ya wanawake kuoa wanawake wenzao, ati na wanaume kuoa wanaume wenzao. Hiyo haiwezekani katika taifa letu la Kenya, jameni. Kwa hivyo musikue na wasiwasi. Tunaelewana? Musikue na wasiwasi. Itafanyika kwingine lakini haitafanyika Kenya.
All right, and that is William Ruto talking about you know what has been the talk of the country, and people are questioning why it's so quiet about that particular ruling. What do you make of that statement by President William Ruto, and what does it mean when it comes to matters to do with the LGBTQ and the respect for the Supreme Court?
Yes, I think his sentiments and those of his deputy relate or are similar to those of most of the presidents of maybe African nations. And they are sentiments that maybe, or not even maybe, that relate so much on Africa as a society. And I agree with him that one, well, it might, my reasons might not be maybe for religious reasons, but it is unnatural. And if I told you today, and even for those who quote Article 27, and I've heard others quoting Article 31, others quoting Article 28 on dignity of people, and 31 on expression. But if today I told you that as a person, and this has happened before, we have had people who have done that as a person I do not feel that I need to live anymore. And that I do not think that life has done me justice, and so I think it is my right to do away with myself and maybe commit suicide. Will that be right?
Definitely it will not be right.
It will not be right by even in matters law, and even however you view it, it wouldn't be right. If I told you today, and I think that is a conversation that will happen in the future if we follow this route, that I have pedophilia or pedophilic feelings, that I like a child, and I feel that emotionally I'm attracted to her, even sexually. A child of maybe even below 18 years, or even a child in primary school. And I tell you that now, because we have a discussion that says love is love, will you say that it is right or it is correct for me as an adult to go and maybe have a sexual relationship with a child?
It has never been and it will never be right.
It will never be right. So that is the same case with this one. It can never be right. However you view it, it can never. It is only natural that, and I'm saying now that as an African, not even as a Christian or a Muslim, it is only natural to have things happen in a particular way. And even these things that we are talking about, and because I've heard even people quoting the Constitution saying that matters of scientific research, there is nothing scientific about homosexuality. I mean, let us face it, because all these maybe socially or in social sciences like sociology, we can discuss it and say that sometimes there are complexes that people have that they need to be helped to come out of. But now, creating a situation or a precedence, the way the Supreme Court did, that enables them to go even deeper, will be even wrong to humanity. Because I think these are people who, that is my view, I think these are people, as a sociologist, who need social help and who need psychological help. Because let's face it, that's the way it is. It is not scientific. It is not scientific. It is only things that maybe we can solve on grounds of social sciences. So I think it is correct, but also as we do that, it is also important and it is imperative to say that we need to also protect the rights of these people to live. Because there are people who do things and say things that border on maybe victimizing these people in a way that might endanger their security. So while we do this, it is also good to do it in a caring way, so that we do not have people who incite others. To have heard of people who are inciting others to go and beat up people. It is wrong. But for now, it is not a conversation that African countries can have.
So you're talking about we reject the vice, but not reject the people.
Yes.
All right, and talking about that, you realize that there has been a conversation surrounding that particular matter. Of course, the Western countries' involvement in this particular agenda.
Yes.
The Kenyan people had their own part of argument, saying that why was this happening when the First Lady of the United States was visiting this particular country, and then subsequently what followed is a donation of around
61
billion,
yes.
I think 16 billion
for
shillings.
People starving or something.
Yes, 16 billion from the United States aid, that is the US aid, and it talks about a country that is so dependent on the Western countries that, despite the country's position, at some point they are forced to compromise, what they believe in, for them to benefit in one way or the other. What do you make of the relationship now between the Western countries that once in a while or oftenly are involved in the development of countries such as Kenya, and the position that Kenya takes on matters that they find them important, but the country as Kenya does not find them important?
I think the root of all these problems is how our economies are built, and especially Kenya, now that we are in Kenya, and even largely African countries, because our economies are majorly reciprocal. So that you find a situation where the US is right now is where probably we want to be in the future, maybe 100 years or 50 years, depending on what economy we are talking about. And now this replicating of what other things people have done in the past, so that we get where they are right now, is what has led us here, because we are majorly dependent on these people. And that is the main problem. No one will tell China or the Chinese people what to do. We have not heard of it. Since I was born, and since I came to know things that maybe are happening in the world, I've not heard of maybe the Western country trying to tell China, now this is what is moral, this is immoral, this is what you should do, because they are able to do, they are independent economically. And I think if we as a country were able to move towards that direction, ensuring that we are self-reliant, that we do not depend on the Western countries for help and for donations, then we will be able to tell them that now this is good for us, this is not good for us. But these concerns about what happened when the First Lady of the United States came, and then this conversation happened, they are legitimate concerns, because it has been happening. It is an open secret that most of this, even our government and other governments in Africa, are majorly controlled by these Western countries. And I think it is a great disservice to the people of Kenya if that were to happen, or if that truly happened. So I think one of the things that we should be able as a country, and even governments of Africa should be able to do, is to clearly tell the Western countries, and even Asia, because now Asia is coming up as a rival of the Western countries, that it is good that we need to work together and to partner in some areas of economic development. But we do not take it kindly that you have to impose what you believe, your beliefs, on us because we need a particular thing. Well, if this must be done for you to do this, then stay away. With due respect, stay away. And I think that has been done, came out very well with President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, who told them that what you believe does not necessarily mean it's what we will believe. We will disagree on many matters. And if we disagree, and if it does not work for us, we feel free, and we shall be free to tell you that it does not work for us.
It works differently. When you look at this particular conversation that also began when President Uhuru Kenyatta was in the country, and one memorable event is when he told of the then U.S. President Barack Obama right in his face that we cannot accept what you're talking about. Yes. And you could see the anger and, you know, the facial expression of President Uhuru Kenyatta when he was former President Uhuru Kenyatta, I mean, when he was addressing that particular issue. Just when Obama was beside him, you could see that he was frustrated by what the Westerners are trying to force or rather push into the country. But if you look at, you know, there's been the link of African countries and also Kenya involved, over-reliance on Western countries for development and, you know, sustainability and all that. But if you look at the tenure of President Uhuru Kenyatta, he did not so much rely on the Westerners, but relied on countries such as China. You know, you've seen many of these the projects being done under the reign of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. They were from the Asian, the loans were coming from China, some of them coming from the IMF and all that. But if you look at what President Ruto has taken a different direction, arguably by what has been termed by, you know, foreign affairs experts, that he's trying to find his way through the Western countries, unlike his predecessor, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who turned to Asia. As a matter of fact, if you look at those two scenarios, you would see that if I'm not benefiting from you in developing my country, then you cannot force this particular conversation onto me. The reliance right now of Kenya on Western countries, do you feel that is what is pushing this agenda now? They feel, or rather the Western countries now feel that we are entitled to push this particular agenda because this country is now relying on us, unlike what was before. Is that also a factor included in what is happening in the country? One of the facts, and I think this is even historical and it can be proven historically, is that over-reliance on the Western part of this world always turns out chaotic. I mean, it is historical. It did not work for Iran, did not work for Iraq. It has not worked for Kuwait. I mean, there should be a limit to how much we look forward and even push the agenda with the Western countries and even others. And what I would say, and what I will advocate for, and this is a very personal opinion, is that instead of relying on either Asia or relying on either the Arab world or even the Western world, what we should do is unite as African countries and rely on ourselves. Because if we were to maybe rely on a country like South Africa as part of Africa, as a united group of African countries, then we will achieve a lot because we are able. We have all the resources that we need in Africa. And we have, I mean, countries like, there's someone who said recently that Germany does not have reserves for minerals like oil and even gold. But their children, when they go to schools, they learn issues of mining and what have you. And in Africa, we have reserves that are not depletable. But children here are not studying on how to mine, which means it borders more on our mentality than our capability. We are capable. So African countries are able to rely on themselves and to be able to protect themselves from imposed agenda, which do not help Africa per se. I mean, why would, because, and even this is an open secret that recently and even in the past,
There have been activities that are driven by Western organizations and or majorly organizations that are foreign, trying to push the agenda of gayism and homosexuality. To them, it is an agenda that they have pushed countless times and even funded so much that if you talk about these things the way we are talking about them, then you are branded as an antisocial person, a person who does not respect the rights of people because of this money and how much this money has gone into the media and the international media. And that is why you see them, when these international media people come, they come with some sense of we are in control and what we say is what is right. So what you are saying is not correct. So I think to be able to avoid all this correctly and once and for all, it is only good that we are able to build our economies together as African countries. That way we are able to protect each other because we understand each other. Because most of these communities in Africa, most of what we believe majorly borders to each other. I mean, it is something that we can be able to agree on without majorly trying to force issues into each other.
Yes. I think we'll be, before we welcome back Biko Ashoya, we can take a listen in to what the Azimio la Umoja coalition also had to weigh in regards to the ongoing row, regards to the Supreme Court ruling on the LGBTQ. So we can take a listen in to what the Azimio la Umoja said, then we come back, continue the conversation.
Have the right to marry a person of the opposite sex based on the free consent of the parties. Every person has the right to marry a person of the opposite sex. Kubaliana, mradi tu ya kwamba wamekubaliana. Mahakama kazi yake ni kuona ya kwamba katika utawala wake serikali haivunji sheria ambayo imewekwa. Hiyo ndio kazi ya mahakama. Unaenda kwa mahakama kama unasema kwamba wewe umedhulumiwa na serikali.
We condemn in very strong terms and totally reject the ruling of Supreme Court of Kenya on the alleged rights of LGBTQ community, which ruling.
All right, and that is what the Azimio la Umoja also had to talk about in regards, to the LGBTQ conversation. And welcome you, Biko Ashoya, to this particular broadcast this morning.
Thank you so much.
You can tell Kenyans where you
my apologies for coming in late. Unfortunately, there are some young men who were arrested yesterday because of making some noise in town when the president was around. And I received calls in the middle of the night to attend to their concerns this morning. My apologies into that. But I know they are being taken to court this morning. There are almost 30 of them. Okay. So I had to pass by somewhere and just organize them. But then, be that as it may, it's actually good we're having this conversation about the LGBTQ, because it's a conversation that people have been having in hushed tones. It is good that then it has now come to the fore so that people can objectively deal with it. And the fact that even one Kenyan who affiliates himself to or who associates himself to this group of persons was bold enough to even take that step and try to legalize their association is something that was awakening call. And where it has gotten right now is a point where people should now look at this conversation and realize that we have people who associate themselves in a particular way, who live amongst us. It's since this discussion started, I've actually realized that this group of persons actually ni wengi sana. Si ati ni wachache, ni wengi. And they're becoming bold by the day. They are coming out, they are speaking about it, and it is something that Kenyans really need to have a discussion with, need to have a discussion on, because then if we don't have that discussion, then it is something that, you know, it's like hiding your head in the sand, and behaving, and you know, and telling yourself that actually the sun is not out, the sun is not up there. So it's good we're having this conversation. Let me first stop it at that, and then yes.
We're talking about, you know, the conflict that comes with the, you know, this particular conversation, and what you know, the Supreme Court argued that we know what the law says, and this is what the law says.
Yes.
But this is also what the law says when it comes to the rights of the people. So in that scenario, it's been talked about. It's a conflict of the law.
Yes.
What do you make of you know, the current discussion? The president comes out and says that we respect the Supreme Court, but this is the position of the country. That is the head of state. But the Supreme Court believes that we understand also a fair share of the Constitution, and this is our argument. What do you make of that conflict between the human rights and the law?
It's actually about understanding what had been subjected to the Supreme Court for determination, and that is what that is even the discussion I've had with my friends, because the Supreme Court or any other court would only make a determination of the issues that have been brought before it for determination. What was not brought before the Supreme Court for determination was the question as to whether being a homosexual in Kenya or performing the act of homosexuality is legal or not. That is not what was subjected to the Supreme Court for determination. What was subjected to the Supreme Court for determination was whether the in charge at the NGO registration board was justified to refuse the registration of this association of persons. That is what was brought for determination. So the Supreme Court is saying that the fact that these people approached you and they wanted to register this organization, and that you refused to register the organization, in and by itself is a contravention of the law, because you have denied these people the right to association. Insofar as whether the legality of homosexuality or not is concerned, that is, that is a going concern, because it is in the Kenyan law, and the Kenyan law says that that the action itself of homosexuality is illegal. But you see, now that is not what was brought for determination before the Supreme Court. The main issue for determination was the action by the registrar at the, or rather the chair at the national non-governmental organization is concerned. His or her action to refuse to register that that association of persons. It has, of course, brought in a lot of debate, and some people are even arguing that registration of a group of persons who are engaging in an illegal act is in itself an illegality. And they have, and they have given examples. If me and my colleague here, my friend here, and you decided that we are certified murderers, we do clinical murdering of persons, and then we now decide that we want to go to the registrar of companies and register a company of this association of the three of us of murderers. Is the registrar of companies going to register such kind of an entity? Or is the NGO board going to register such kind of... So that what then we will be telling him that don't worry so much about don't worry so much about what we are doing, but we just want to form an association so that it is there in the law that we have an association of murderers. So that is the question. That is the question that people are asking. That yes, murder in itself is prohibited. But then forming an association of murderers is not prohibited, because the law allows us to associate. Now, yes, there's the freedom of association. So where does the law, where is that? Where is this line? Right? And if you read the Supreme Court judgment,
the majority and the dissenting voice in that judgment, actually that is where the bone of contention is. Are we going to sanitize a group of persons who are engaging in an illegal activity? Because homosexuality is illegal in Kenya. Lesbianism gayism is illegal in Kenya. Now, if you want to form an association, are we going to allow you to form an association? So that you champion
what is illegal?
Yes, that which is illegal. Coming out here and declaring that you are a homosexual is not illegal. Being found in the act of homosexuality is illegal. Now, where do we draw the line? That is actually the question that Kenyans are asking themselves. Yes.
And President William Ruto comes out and talks and puts the position of the country, regardless of what the Supreme Court said,
yes.
And says that we respect that particular Supreme Court ruling,
yes.
But I want to say categorically that in this country, there is not going to be something like homosexuality, something like LGBTQ. When you see the Supreme Court ruling, of course, it's the biggest court in the land, so you cannot appeal against the Supreme Court. What does that statement by President, mean for that particular ruling? And also, right now, you understand the conversation has taken a different step from what it was before.
You see, one thing that we have to understand, two things. One is that the bench that sat to make a determination at the Supreme Court was a 5-judge bench. Two of the judges, that is Justice Lenaola and Justice Martha Koome, Chief Justice, never sat on that bench. For the reason that Lenaola made a determination of this issue when he was sitting in the High Court. So his position is known. Justice Martha Koome sat and made a determination on this issue when she was a judge of the Court of Appeal. So she cannot sit again because her drift insofar as this issue is concerned has already been expressed. Lenaola's take is also known insofar as this issue is concerned, and that is why Lenaola never sat on this bench. Martha Koome never sat on this bench. Like you said, it is the highest court of the land. There is, you can't appeal any further from it. What other players were talking about is making an application for a review, so that it will go back. It will go before the same bench. I've heard some people saying that when now they make an application for a review, they are going to insist that then there is a full bench of 7 judges. But then we are asking ourselves, insofar as this issue is concerned, and insofar as my understanding of their determination, they have actually, all of them, the 7 of them, have made their mind known on what their thinking is on this issue. So whether you take it before the 5-judge bench and you try to persuade them otherwise, or whether you're taking it before the 7-judge bench and try to make them have a different legal inclination from whatever it is that they have already made a determination, is something that we await to see. Insofar as what the president said, it's for me it's a very straightforward thing. The president is head of government and he is head of the state. He swore to protect the Constitution and all the attendant laws under the Constitution. Of course, we also do have to understand that we do not have to approach it from a religious perspective, because Kenya, as the Constitution says, does not have any religious inclination. But then the president, insofar as protecting the law of the land is concerned, that is the Constitution, and all the laws below it is concerned, he has that obligation. And the president was not telling people anything that is out of the blues. The president was simply just stating the law. The law says that acts of homosexuality, bestiality, gayism, lesbianism are not allowed are not allowed within the Republic of Kenya, and he's not going to allow it. Propagation of the same, like the Supreme Court is trying to propagate. I got in when my brother here was talking about the act of propagating. You know, it's like giving people medicines in small doses until when they get used to it, and then now you introduce the full dose. Now that is what they're doing, propagating it. Let us have this discussion. Let it be in the minds of Kenyans for a very long time, to the extent that when ultimately now we come and legalize it, people will be very comfortable with it, and they'll be saying, no, but we've been having this conversation for some time. We've been having lesbianism for quite a while in this country. I mean, homosexuality, it is high time that homosexuality should not be made illegal. So it is something that they want Kenyans to get acclimatized to get so comfortable with, and then after some time they'll be saying, no, we need to repeal the section of the law in the penal code that makes it illegal for people to practice homosexuality. Because anyway, people are, you know, it's
been a conversation
yes,
that people have accepted.
Exactly.
But if you look at this conversation, Ndegwa, it's been talked about as a conversation that is trying to distract the Kenyan people from what is really the main agenda.
Yes.
You know, when it comes to what do you make of
and that
such
is,
sentiment?
Thank you. That is what I was saying before my brother came in. That even before we get to a point where, as he says, that this has been propagated for a long time, and that we are now used to the discussion and we are used to the topic, there is more need to look at it in terms of what do we really need now. Is this important now for Kenya as a country? Is this important now at this moment for the people of Kenya? And as I had put it clearly before, and it has been put clearly even other times by different people, presidents, leaders of various organizations, that plainly this is not it. For now, this is not the priority. We have so many other issues that when we talk about this one, we will lose our focus for now. And for instance, this week we have lost focus. We have lost focus on the greater issue of insecurity in the north. We have lost focus on food prices. I remember sometimes earlier there was an artist, Eric Omondi, who was arrested for protesting about food prices and what have you. We have now forgotten that one. And it seems kind of like a distraction, which we should be able to avoid, and avoid what and wade away from what I was talking earlier about Western influence. Because now clearly this is from outside, not inside. And until we get to a point where we are now satisfied and we can say now, because the other basic needs have been satisfied, people are enjoying a meal, they are enjoying 3 meals a day. People in the Turkana and in West Pokot have security. Other people are able to go to school. Everyone is able to enjoy their rights to education and what have you. Then we can now look and say, we had this other issue of people who wanted to be this way, of people who wanted to be recognized as queer and what have you. Now let them come and we hear them. But also, trying to wade into what he has, my good friend here has brought up about people, and it is what I wanted to maybe talk about before he even made it clearer, that it's like if we talked about the issue of bang smoking, which some people may say that it has some scientific and health benefits, but we are not there. Legally, we are not there. And so, finding people who are smoking or even trafficking bang is illegal, and it is a crime. If these people, same people, came together and said, now we are bang smokers, and we identify as such. Yes. We identify. We do not identify as tobacco smokers, but we identify as bang smokers, and because of that, we want now to form a group where we will be an organization where we will be discussing our issues and helping each other to know how well we can improve our smoking. And then now we say now this is association, let us grant them the right and the freedom to associate and discuss these issues. Don't you think it is contradictory? Don't you think that the Supreme Court in this one has set a precedence that might cause a crisis in terms of how we interpret the law and how things have been set before? In my personal view, I think this has set us up for something we did not envision. And that is a discussion that might be contradictory. On one hand saying we can associate, and on the other one saying that, well, is it right to do the action that we are associating to identify with? So I think that is also a discussion that must be had, so that we are able to objectively put it clear that according to our law, these should not be allowed. And yes.
And for me, I think much as my good friend Degwa says, it's a distraction. It's only that it has come at a wrong time. This distraction, but then it's a conversation that we actually need to have. Considering that that the registration of this group of persons began, or the intention to register it began in the year 2013. This matter has actually taken 10 years. And it has gone through the High Court, it has gone to the Court of Appeal, it has now come to the Supreme Court for the ultimate determination. It is a discussion that guys have been having it, especially in the legal circles that have been having it for since the Court of Appeal made the determination in the year 2015, and it agreed with the with the registrar at the NGOs board that we can't have such kind of registration happening. And then, of course, now it is the appellant, the guy who had been denied the right to do the registration. He is actually the one who approached the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has ultimately agreed with him that he can be allowed to do that registration. What does the NGO Registration Board Act says about a registration of certain organizations, of associations? There are certain words, if they appear in the name of the entity that you want to register, the registrar will automatically not allow such kind of registration. Let's say if you want to register an association of robbers, just by the fact that the word robbers appears in the name of the entity that you want to register, the registrar is not going to authenticate such kind of registration. If you want to register a name of, let's say you want to register an association of rapists, and then you want to register the Association of Rapists of Kenya, the registration, just by the mere fact that the name rapists appears in the name of this entity that you want to register, the registrar is not going to allow such kind of registration. And that is actually what happened in this scenario that we're talking about. Because they wanted to register the association of gays, lesbians, and whatever, queer, whatever name they had. So they gave a proposal of 3 names. And in this proposal of 3 names, it had all these names. But then now the registrar was asking himself, now I want to do because the registrar refused to certify that registration on 2 grounds. One, the names that you want to have in this organization as the name of the organization, they are names that are prohibited within the understanding of the law that that guides registration of such kind of entities. That is one. 2, you claim that you want to register this entity, meaning that you participate in actions that have not been sanctioned by the law, actions that have not been ordained by the law. Now, how am I going to sit as a registrar and, 1, certify the registration of names that are not permissible within this act, and 2, to try and sanitize a group of persons that want to engage in an activity that is illegal in the law. Now that is the predicament that the registrar found himself in, and on that basis alone, he disallowed the registration or the continued processing of that entity. So they hadn't even gotten to the point of registration. Because you know when you are going to do registrations, you go and reserve a name first. So at the point of reservation of that name, the registrar said, we can't do this. Yeah, we can't do this because the law doesn't allow. The law that guides the registration of such kind of entities doesn't allow. And two, the issue of the activities that you guys are engaged in is not permissible. So it is a distraction, yes. It has taken 10 years. It is quite unfortunate that it's coming at this stage where, as a country, we are talking about issues of food security. We are talking about the insecurity in the north and in the Rift Valley. We are talking about high cost of living and so on and so forth. And like my colleague has said, yes, it's true. It's really distracted us from discussing substantive issues that are affecting us. Yes.
And talking about distracting us from, I want to put that conversation away because it might also distract us from discussing what.
It's very emotive.
It might distract us from discussing what is importance of the country. Let's talk about, the highlight of the week, of course, was the passing of the supplementary budget by the Parliament, and despite the fact that the President had, indicated that we'll be cutting off around 300 billion in that particular budget, that did not happen. And when you look at the expenditure of the Office of the President was increased, as well as that of the Deputy President, was increased. What do you make of that?
Begin with also an addition to what is the Prime Minister's office?
771 million.
Chief
Administrative
yes.
Chief
Cabinet Secretary.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay, these are just names. We also know that he's just the Prime Minister.
Yes.
Short for it. But, well, there are so many ways to look at this. And one of the ways to view it politically is what the Deputy President has tried to propagate over time, which to some extent, it's true and also unfortunate in some sense. And this narrative is that what happened in the previous administration is following this administration, as has been always. What has happened in previous administration always follows those who come and take over from them. Now, there is one thing on one side that the government feels that it's constrained. I'm not speaking for them, but I'm just stating that they might feel that they are constrained in some sort of way because of the excesses of the previous administration, or what the previous administration engaged in. And so because of this, they might to some extent have no option but to even enlarge the limits of how much they can spend to be able to cover ground and to be able to kind of treat what they are so parts of the previous administration. But be as it may be, it is important to clearly say that this government has no option. All administrations have no options because the people trusted you, and that is why they put you in power. And so by that virtue alone, then every other thing that is pulling you behind becomes now your problem. Now you should deal with it in private and don't even inform us. Work for the people and ensure, as you work for the people, that you balance. And that is what this administration should do, balance between trying to cover ground and being on the good side in terms of how they are able to use their finances, with the ability to understand the pain of the people. Because these people, when they voted them because they had their call that maybe they will improve the lives of the hustlers. And so if there are excesses in their expenditure, then it translates to the common person feeling the pinch, because now it goes, it comes back to the taxpayer. So in my view, I think on one side, while they might be disadvantaged, as they have said, because in one of these when you look at what the president has, the office of the president has been given 7.3 or something.
7.3 billion.
Billion,
Yes.
yes.
And this part of this 7.3 billion, as they say, is meant to pay the bills of the NMS. Which is a creation of the previous administration. It's a situation that seems like this administration has to pay for the sins of the previous one. But even if that is the case, I think there is need to cut budget here and there, including how much, if this is the discussion that we must have, we must discuss the salaries of this administration, the people in these officials in this administration. And if there is goodwill from the president, he has the ability to say, now we have to pay for the sins of the previous administration, and we also have to help the people and our people to live a better life that is devoid of high food prices. And so because of that, we can solve that problem by saying that we cut budget here, we cut how much we spend here, so that ministries and ministers do not have to use maybe 10 vehicles, or I'm just in my crazy imaginations, do not have to use 10 vehicles, do not have to use this type of vehicle because it consumes a lot of fuel, such things. And even as I said last time in a previous show that we were here with our good friend Vincent Kerosi, that there is need to have a discussion on putting limits to how many government officials we can have, so that we don't have one administration coming and saying that now we have 31, like the previous one, we have 31 CASs, then this one we have 21, the next one will say we want to have 50 CASs, with the reasons, of course, so that we are able to control ourselves, we are able to control our appetite. And that is what the chairman of the budget committee, Honorable Nyoro, said, that they are trying to cap the appetite. But I don't think they have managed to do that enough. Yes, I think they need to cut down the appetite so that we don't have so much spending. Yes.
And coming to, is it so difficult, for us to cut costs and, for us to cut costs for the budget as well? You may try as much as you can, but the situation in the country is not allowing you to do that.
You see, let me weigh in and say, the current dispensation, the current administration is one administration that is trying to keep up with the promises that they gave Kenyans. At the height of the elections, the members of this administration during the campaigns went over and above their manifesto. For starters, their manifesto was very ambitious. And because the political heat was so up there, they decided to even make promises of things that were not even in their manifestos. So they actually came in with a lot of promises. That is one. Two, the budget that we are talking about in this financial year, the financial year of 2022-2023, is a financial budget that was passed in the previous administration, with its own uniqueness, with its own priorities, with its own everything. And so when this administration gets into government, it is getting into government, it is getting into power in the middle of a financial year. There is a budget that has been passed. The budget that was passed was not passed with your manifesto in consideration. And so their first order of business when they got into government was to do a restructuring of that budget. And so they've been doing a restructuring of that budget. In fact, what this administration has been working on a minimum budget just to cater for to ensure that the government doesn't run to a halt. So after they have restructured the budget, that is now when they can expend funds from the budget. And that is what has happened. In expending monies from the exchequer, they have to be alive to all these positions that they have created. They have to realign the budget to ensure that it works with their manifesto. Like, for instance, let me tell you, when the previous administration was passing the budget, it had aligned itself to the 4-point agenda that the previous government had set out: infrastructure, universal health, and so on and so forth, which may not be part of the agenda of this administration. So now they have to realign it, right? When they are doing it, they're also realizing that for us to implement our manifesto, we have to create positions. And when we are creating positions, offices or functions follow monies, right? So we are creating the position of the chief cabinet secretary, the one that is being occupied by the son of Mudamba Mudavadi. That position comes with responsibilities. It comes with office holders. Because the position of the chief cabinet secretary, I can assure you it has more than 200 staff working in that office. It should be given a budget of more than 200 million in a financial year. Had that money been budgeted for in the financial year of 2012, 2022, 2023, it had not. And so the government is trying to do what my good friend Dego is saying. Let us cut here and allocate in this other budget, and then it has to be alive to the current situation that we face ourselves. As at the time when the budget was being passed in 2022, the hunger bites were not as severe as they are right now. And so we have to align ourselves and say hunger wasn't a going concern back in the days, but then now it is. We have to create monies for it, and so on and so forth. So this government has to be very proactive. It has to be, and it has to move with speed, because the clock is not stopping. Banditry in the Rift Valley and in northern Kenya wasn't a big issue back in the days. Right now, we have not just sent there the police. We have even sent the army. These people have to feed. These people have to eat. These people have to ammunitions have to be. We have to up our ammunitions. We have to supply, right? So and that has to be budgeted for. That has to be that has to be factored. And there are so many other things that have to be factored in. So we may not see so much change in their first year in the office or within this financial budget. We are only going to see considerable change as from the month of August, after we have passed a new budget in the month of June of this year.
Just a minute, I'm sorry for interrupting. I agree with my good friend here that this administration, and now this is the point, that this administration has to look away from politics or the political view of ways we understand they are politicians and concentrate on administration, which is what His Excellency, the former President Mwai Kibaki did. That even after such a good time, 2002, 2003, when the President came in and with his new administration, even with all that good hype, that now there is change and the expectations, people still complained. Because for something good to happen, then it means people must dig deeper. For the free education to happen, then it meant that people had to be taxed. And that it is not a very beautiful path to walk. But I think to some extent, even if there is need to check this government, there is also need to understand what he's saying, that it does not have to be instant. This government has to be given some time. to be able to organize itself, because it is at the first stages of organizing itself, to be able to know where are we heading to. And I think it is understandable. But even as we say it is understandable, I will repeat that they need to also balance and understand that they should not overdo, like the previous administration overdid, bombarding with development, so that like feeding a little child with ugali, unajaza until the child cannot be able to even breathe freely. So it is important that they take it in good stride, so that the people are also able to breathe as they go through the transition, because it is a painful transition, but it must be done.
Talking about a painful transition, is also a painful matter for the Kenya Kwanza government, and I understand there's what Kimani Ichung'wah said in Parliament, and wrote all matters of allegation. You can take a listen into what he said.
In the dying hours of any regime, or towards every election, there is usually a sprint and a looting spree of government coffers. And the last election was no exception. The Ruaraka land scandal happened on the verge of the 2017 elections. Kenyans will be shocked by the level of impunity and theft. You know, Honorable Speaker, I see the member for Ruaraka telling me to go slow on Ruaraka, and I know he knows I don't mean his constituents. I mean the Ruaraka land school scandal that happened on the verge of the last elections in 2017. And I want to tell members that the last elections, 2022, was no exception. If there was theft in the on the verge of the 2017 elections, on the Ruaraka land scandal, that was foreplay. Real theft, real looting happened on the verge of the 2022 elections. You will be shocked that even on the night Kenyans were voting, when people are counting votes, there are people who are counting billions that they had looted from government coffers. And Honorable Speaker, I've taken time because I was just laying these papers, because these are now public documents. Kenyans, I do not need to name them here. They shall be named. They shall be named. And you know them. You know them. Kenyans know them. Honorable Speaker, I didn't have the latitude to name them here, but in due course, Honorable Speaker, if, and I want to say if, our oversight committees do not take up this matter to end this culture of impunity, there is nothing that will stop the current government on the verge of the 2027 or 2032 elections from looting public coffers with impunity. We must be the house that will stop looting of public resources towards an election. And we must do it. And I said, if our oversight committees and our departmental committees don't take up this matter, rest assured, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, yours faithfully, the leader of majority, on behalf of the people of Kikuyu and on behalf of the people of Kenya, I will ensure I spare no energy to expose those who looted this country on the verge of the 2022 elections with an abandoned impunity. I beg to lay, Honorable Speaker.
Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, you've heard what the allegation, the lamentation, and all that. What do you make, Ndegwa? What do you make of such statements? Of course, just briefly, so that I also take Biko's statement, and then we get to talk about another subject. What do you make of such statements?
First of all, before I even say that, I need to lay a disclaimer that as I speak, I speak with the full understanding that I am the chairman of the Kenya Youth, a party that is affiliated to the Azimio coalition. And even as I say that, I need to also lay a disclaimer that this is my personal opinion, and that I'm not in any way representing the party because the party has a spokesperson. Now that laid aside, let me say that I agree with what Honorable Ishongwa is saying, that it is good that he has gotten into the path of exposing the evils of the previous administration, which by the way is an open secret that they went all the way out to do things that they should not have done, including NMS, and we also know that. But more over and above these exposing and what have you, they should make good their claim and go after these people, so that we ensure we do not only expose these people, but they pay back the money, the public monies that they stole, so that we don't have a situation of things like this recurring. We had the golden bag, we have maize scandal, we have other things that baggages that are pulling us back as a nation, and we know who exactly the people who did this, but we can do nothing about it. We have the NYS. Why are these people still in office? I mean, if this administration is able to follow these people and ensure that the law takes its course and that they are made to pay back every coin that they stole from the public coffers, then it must be done and executed without mercy. And I think that is the only way for this country, so that we do not have corruption pulling us back. And even as they do that, the administration, and this goes also to the President, His Excellency Dr. Ruto, should ensure that in his administration there is no one who is stealing even a penny, so that it does not become a case of pursuing others and then going behind the curtains and trying to do the same thing. So for the administration, and even for the past one, and the officials of the past one and the current one, there must be a clear way of dealing with these matters.
Because just so quickly as you weigh in on the same, Kimani Ichung'wah is talking about, there are some people and we know them, and is it a matter of just go after them and allow them and let them return back what they took from the government coffers, or should we just come out and threaten people that we are going to mention them?
This is the kind of rhetoric that gives me, a bad opinion about our leaders. I remember in the year 2014, the then leader of majority, Adan Duale, after the attack of the university students in Garissa, he came out in parliament and he said that he was actually aware of the perpetrators of, he knew who the people who were behind that very heinous attack. And he said that if government doesn't go for them, he was going to name them. That was in 2013.
He did not.
It's now 10 years. We are now in 2023. He's never named them. Has the government ever gone for the people who committed that act? It did, but then not as satisfactorily as we would have expected. There are some people who were later on charged in court. Some of them have been committed. They're serving their term in committee. It is the same rhetoric that I'm getting from the now majority leader in parliament. And I'm asking myself, are we going to be subjected to the same thing? And I've asked myself the question that you've now asked me. Now, if we know these people, what is so difficult? Because I know even in young democracies like in Rwanda, where an amnesty was given to perpetrators of the Rwanda genocide in the year 1994. And all the people who looted from the public coffers, all the way from the year 1990 all the way to the 1994. And when President Kagame got into government, he gave them an amnesty, he gave them a waiver and told them, hey guys, look here. We are going to set up local courts. And if you think that you committed these atrocities against your people, we want you to go and confess in these local courts that we are going to set up. And government is going to forgive you. If you looted from government, from the public, kindly return back the nini, kindly return back whatever it is that you looted, and we are going to be pardoned. But then if you are going to squander that amnesty, we are going to come for you. And true to his word, he is gone against those people. And he is taken back that which belongs to the people. What is so difficult in us as a country going that route? If it is true that the leadership of this country knows the people who have looted from us as Kenyans, let them stop telling us that they are going to name them. Let them stop telling us that Kenyans know. No, Kenyans do not know. Kenyans are relying on the fact that they elected you to represent us. They bestowed you with this trust that you are going to do the right thing. Can you stop telling us that you are going to name them?
And do it.
Just name them. Stop telling us that we know about them. We may be knowing about them. What do you want Kenyans to do? You want us to go to a person X's house and now arrest them or frog march them to Central Police Station and say, we know that this person looted. We want you to charge them. Remember, at the end of the day, we have various government departments that have been charged with various responsibilities. Definitely. We have the EACC, we have the DCI, we have the police, we have various institutions that have been given various mandates. What is so, and even including even the parliament, they have investigative roles. What is so difficult in parliament taking up that responsibility, doing its own investigation, calling for people to bring, calling for memoranda, and doing their own investigations, and then forwarding this report to the DCI and tell the DCI, we have even eased your work. Yeah, we have these reports, we have these witnesses who have testified before us, which is allowed in law. We have done 60% of your work. Kindly just do the rest of the 40% and recommend this file for purposes of prosecuting to the Director of Public Prosecutions. And so that then we stop this rhetoric of people saying, we are going to name, we are going to shame, we are going, you know these people. We you know, moving forward, we don't want such kind of conversation, we want actions.
Yes.
I think we are going to wind up that particular conversation. But before we wind up, of course, the biggest conversation that has come out is, you know, what has been happening in Nigeria. And I don't know why you guys are laughing, but you know,
the fact that you really want us to discuss that is in itself.
Just briefly, because I'm told you only have like 3 minutes left, and such. Bola Tinubu, you know, a president-elect of the Republic of Nigeria.
Yes.
There's been a conversation around that, and even how the elections were conducted. You know, the Nigerians coming out to say this is a shambolic election. But you look at a country like Kenya, we talk about this election was rigged, this election was shambolic. What do you make of the Nigeria election? Just to begin with you, Ndegwa.
To begin with,
just briefly.
Yes, briefly. I would say what happened in Nigeria to me seems funny. Because on one end, the observers say that, some observers, including our former president, say that this thing was correct. Ilikuwa safi kama pamba. But on the other hand, there are those who say, hey, bwana, I was watching the other day a video of what is in the portal of the commission there. And in one of those polling stations, the results posted is a photo of a lady.
I think I saw that clip.
Yeah, we also.
It's a bit funny, but to me, it paints a very good picture. Actually, Kenya is a saint in matters. If you look, if you compare Nigeria, what happened in Nigeria and in Kenya, I mean, we are making good strides. And I think if we continue in that path, we will be very fine in a few years to come. I think a lot need to be done. A lot is to be desired about Africa and how we conduct ourselves. Yes.
Biko. Bola Tinubu.
I think the processes that we undertake as a government are only as good as the systems that we've put in. The Kenyan electoral system is one that has undergone sufficient panel beating, that we are now very proud of the system that we have right now. I may not be quite sure about the system in Nigeria, but going by what we've seen on both mainstream media and even social media, like my good friend Degwa said, I think we are decades away from the shambolic activities that are happening in Nigeria. I wouldn't really want to blame them. Probably that is what the system provides. That is what the Nigerian people have decided for themselves. And so, if that is what the system has dictated that the electoral process is supposed to be, to be conducted, then they have to be contented with whatever system it is that they have put in place to guide that process. So, like in any other contest that is adversarial, it is expected that the people who are affiliated to the person who's ultimately been declared the winner would be out celebrating. And the people who've come in second, because it is adversarial, the second normally doesn't have anything to take home with themselves, they'll come out complaining that the system was, the system was rigged, the system wasn't proper, and so on, all manner of allegations. So, but the long and short about it is that the processes that we undertake are only as good as the processes as the systems that we've put in place. So whatever is happening in Nigeria suits them because that is the system that they have adopted. The international community will come in and would want to, because the international community normally has interests. They always give their sentiments or their comments from a point of interest. Yes. And they would always want this electioneering process to pass as fast as possible so that then they can continue propagating their interest. So they wouldn't want a country that is in constant campaign mode, or for a prolonged, they would want things to crystallize as fast as possible so that then they can continue propagating their interest. So the international community will come and tell you, hey boss, look here, this guy won, the process was credible, let us move on. The people may have their own opinion, but then
it remains that.
It remains that.
It's quite interesting how Kenyans had a lot of interest in the Nigerian election.
I think it's good to benchmark.
It's good to benchmark, and considering. But then if you look at the established democracies, or rather the established economies in Africa, we are talking about Nigeria, we are talking about Ghana, we are talking about South Africa, we are talking about Egypt, we are talking about Kenya. So
democracies where they draw the line.
Yes. These are our peers. So whatever is happening with our peers, we definitely would want to develop a lot of interest around it.
I think that is a good point to wind up.
And also just to add, just briefly, I think for countries like Nigeria, DRC, Rwanda, and other countries that have been in various crises, it is important that we have what we will call common ground. And they are able to tailor-make their systems to suit them. If it suits them that way, and if it suits their economy that way, then they just carry the cross. Because we have seen in the past, we have seen where in the 63 and 64, 65, I think around there, where there was one president then overthrown and then ruled for a long time by the military, and then it seems for stability, for the purpose of stability. I think it is also now that they have decided now this is the president. Let them just get satisfied.
I think they should also be satisfied. Because also Kenyans had to accept the decision, and that is where we end up this conversation. Thank you so much, Dego, for making time this morning for this particular conversation. And I show you Biko for making time to have this particular conversation, despite that lateness.
Yes.
Umesema vijana
in fact, I'm even receiving calls right now. I'm supposed to be. I'll just be headed straight.
Kabla pewe remind.
Exactly, and it's a Friday.
It's a Friday, so it's up to Monday.
So that is up to Monday.
Kamata. All right, that is where we end up this conversation. Thank you so much for making time, and that is where we wind up the State of the Nation conversation. Of course, next week we'll be talking about different matters that review for the week will have looked like, and we wait to see what happens with the now uproar about the LGBTQ. My name is Chris Sambo. See you next week on Friday. Goodbye for now and good morning.